Welcome to Birds of Ontario Part B. In this particular module, we'll be discussing Passeriformes, which are essentially our perching birds. This is a very large family, as we'll see shortly, and there will be many different groups of species contained within. The size of the Passeriformes order is enormous. More than half of all bird species actually fit into this category, so it's huge. One of the things to keep in mind is that these are sort of perching birds. That's one of the ways that they're referred to, or sometimes less accurately, as songbirds. The order of their feet, though, is key, although it's not unique. Their order of their toes, so there's three pointing forward and one pointing back, facilitates perching. Hence, in a lot of cases, perching birds can be a useful commonality for this particular order. The eastern kingbird is one of our tyrant flycatchers. It's a sturdy, medium-sized songbird with a large head, an upright, square-tipped tail, and a relatively short, straight bill. It's very dark up from above and very white below, as you can see here, especially in flight. The black tail has a very conspicuous white tip, which you can see both perching and in flight. Very white underbelly and chin, and then a very corresponding dark, contrasting feet from the underside and head from above. It is similar in some ways to an eastern phoebe. So again, one of the things to keep in mind when we get to that species is to compare and contrast between those two. The great crested flycatcher is another tyrant flycatcher, and it is medium-sized songbird. It's relatively large for flycatcher. Bright yellow belly, a cinnamon rufous in the wings and tail, and pale wing bars. The wing bars, of course, are the barring patterns on the wings. They've got a very unique call, which vocalization, which we'll have for you in the presentation of calls and songs. But notice the contrasting colors. So gray under the chin, crest is sort of brown, and then the underbelly is yellow. So very interesting color patterns, so very easily rememberable. The eastern phoebe is sometimes confused with the eastern kingbird, although if you look carefully you'll notice that the coloration and the structure of the body is quite different. This bird is quite plump, whereas the eastern kingbird is quite long and lean, very large-headed. The bill shape is well, typical, very small, narrow bill. Brown coloration and gray above, very white below, dusky wash to the sides. The head is typically the darkest part of the body, and they have also a very unique vocalization as well. The blue jay is a very recognizable bird, not only because of its commonality around bird feeders and in urban rural areas, but also, of course, for its sports associations as well. It's a large crested songbird with a broad, rounded tail. They're much smaller than much smaller than crows, sorry, but larger than robins in terms of size. Very unique coloration, of course, white barring on the white and black barring, sorry, on the wings. Blue, of course, throughout. White on the underbelly. Very unique mnemonic song as well. So again, they've got interesting vocalizations which we would like you to study. The American crow is a large, long-legged, thick-necked bird with a very heavy straight bill. Very common, certainly around in areas around urban and rural environments. They're all black, even the legs and the bill. They have also a very unique song, caw, 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 etc., which we of course will focus on during our call identification. The common raven is sometimes confused with the crow, just similar based on its coloration, but there is in fact some much pronounced differences. They tend to be certainly much larger than a crow. They're slender. They're also shaggier in terms of the way that their feathers look. Also, their beak is quite differently shaped. So rather than straight, you notice that it's curved. The beak is also much more prominent on the face as well. So they are entirely black, similar to crows, right from the beak down into the legs. There are many, many species of Vireo. However, we will only speak of two within this particular group. The red-eyed Vireo, it's a very small, drab-looking bird. Of course, it gets its color, or its name, I should say, from the color of its eyes, which are red. It's otherwise black, olive green on the upper parts, and then white beneath. The crown is usually gray with blue and gray stripes you can see present there. The eyebrow, you can see right above the eye is white with a black stripe through the eye. The blue-headed vireo is a small songbird as well, medium size for a vireo. It's bluish gray with white spectacles. So look at the patterning around the eyes in this case. You'll see that nice typical white spectacle color. Notice the color is also very different. They're far more yellowy than the red-eyed vireo, and of course don't have a red eye. So the belly is white, the flanks are yellowish, they have two whitish wing bars you can see present there, and of course they've got a unique mnemonic as well. Within our swallow group, we've got purple martins, tree swallows, bank swallows, and barn swallows that we're going to talk about. The purple martins are first one. They're relatively large and broad-chested for a swallow, stout with slightly hooked bills with short forked tails and long taper wings. The adult males are iridescent dark blue-purple. The females are duller with variable amounts of gray on the belly and also on the chest. So you can see present in the bottom image the color difference between the two sexes. A tree swallow is very streamlined small songbird. It has long pointed wings and a short square tail, which you can see present in the images there. Bills are very, very, very short and flat. The adult males are blue-green above and white below with a unique black thin eye mask on the eyes. You can probably see that more clearly in the bottom image with the male who's looking at towards the camera. The females are duller in color and they're more brown on their upper parts, and you can see the color contrast between the sexes in the bottom image. They have a very brilliant white belly, which is one of the ways that they are identified, say, from a barn swallow, which sometimes they're confused with. A bank swallow is a very small, slender songbird. It's got white on the underbelly, similar to the tree swallow, but rather than being blue or iridescent on its upper parts, it's brown or gray. Very small bill again, very long wings, dark band across the chest, which you can see more clearly in the bottom image where you see the band across the chest at the wrist of the wing. One of the species of birds which likely everyone will observe during their observations is the black-capped chickadee, one of our more common birds in Ontario. Certainly is not a stranger to humans and certainly is not afraid of humans either in most cases. They're to be found near bird feeders and other places as well, which of course are promoted by human intervention. So the black-capped chickadee is one of several different types of chickadee species that we have in Ontario. This one is a short neck, relatively large head, giving it a rather spherical body appearance. So it looks like a little fluff ball, which is what it is. The cap and bib are black, so the cap and under the chin are black. The cheeks are very white and soft, and the back is a relatively soft, dull gray color. The cap extends just beyond the eye, making the black eyes very difficult to see. They also have a very unique mnemonic, which again is likely familiar to some of you, but again is covered in our song and vocalization lecture. There are two species of nuthatches that we'll be covering in this course, the red-breasted nuthatch and the white-breasted nuthatch. Not surprisingly, they get their name from the color of their breast. So the red-breasted nuthatch, as you can see, is very small. It's compact, much smaller than the white-breasted nuthatch. Very short tails, almost no neck. They've got a unique color pattern, striping across through their eye and on their cap. But of course, they've got that rufous, that reddish cinnamon-colored breast, which is what characterizes them as well. The white-breasted nuthatch is much larger, but still retains the same features, very limited neck, pointy beak, etc. Notice it's got a gray blue on the back and a very frosty white underbelly, hence its name, white-breasted nuthatch. Of the wrens, we're going to focus on two species, the house wren and the marsh wren. The house wren is a bird you might see flicking around in the backyards, etc. It's small and compact with a flat head, and fairly long curved beak. One of the key features about this bird is not only its short wings, but its longish tail that it usually keeps cocked in an upward position. So similar to what you would see in the image towards the bottom, that's typical posture of the perching house wren. The coloration is relatively subdued brown with some dark barring that you can see showing through that brown. The pale eyebrow is very faint here, unlike most wrens that we'll see. It's quite pronounced. This one, it's very similar. They blend in very well into their surroundings. The marsh wren is a small brown bird, very typical of the wren species as well. Notice the upturned tail and posture in the bottom image, which is typical of a wren. This is different than a house wren because the house wren, as you notice, was brown all over. This, of course, has some greater color variation. So it has a white-ish, buffy ventral surface. It's got bold black and white streaks on the back, which are difficult to see in these images, but they are there. They've got a whitish eye line, which you can see much more clearly than in the house wren, and a dark cap. The kinglets are absolutely tiny songbirds. They have relatively large heads, almost no neck, and very thin tails. The ruby-crowned kinglet is very similar to that. Of course, the color patterning is typical of its species and its type. They are olive green birds with a very prominent white eye ring, which you can see clearly in both images. This wing bar contrasts very clearly with the blackish bar in the wing. The ruby crown is only available and only seen in the male, and you can see the difference between the two sexes clearly on this slide in the two images. Of the thrushes, we're going to speak of three of the species, the eastern bluebird, the American robin, and the wood thrush. We're going to start with the bluebird, which is a very recognizable bird from pictures, although less likely to be seen. They are generally small with a big and rounded head. The males, of course, are a very brilliant blue on the back with a rufous ventral surface at the upper part, leading to white down near the bottom of the belly. The females, of course, are duller in color but mimic the same overall patterning. Bluish gray on the back, rufous on the upper parts of the ventral surface and belly, and then white on the bottom. The American robin, which is by far the most common and visible thrush that we would see, is a fairly large songbird with a large round body, long legs, and fairly long tail. Their typical color pattern is gray-brown on their upper surface of their wings, black, relatively dark brown head, white eye ring, rufous belly, hence the name, or robin, red, and then white on the very bottom part of the belly. The tail, of course, moves up and down depending on the action and the behavior of the bird. And they are, of course, seen as a sign of spring, being migratory birds from further south. The wood thrush is a relatively pot-bellied bird. You can see it's got a very nice protruding belly here. Rather than its relative with the American robin, it doesn't have the red underbelly. Instead, it has a white underbelly characterized by black spotting throughout, dark or relatively rufus brown backside to the wings, rufus brown head leading to coloration of spotting beneath the bib or the chin, white eye ring as well, present as would be similar for this group. The brown thrasher is a fairly large but slender songbird, has a tail much longer than a robin, also a beak much longer than a robin. The bill is slightly down curved, as you can see from these images. Foxy brown birds, dark heavy streaking on the body. So if you notice that it's different in terms of its structure than the wood thrush, where it's sometimes confused. They have two black and white wing bars present on as you can see here in the image. They have bright yellow eyes, which are characteristics of the species. One of the least liked, but certainly abundant birds is the European starling, who was brought over, of course, from the Old World in the last 200 years. They are chunky and blackbird-sized, very powerful in terms of its musculature and its ability. Short tail, long, slender beaks. They've got a very iridescent, shimmering pattern to their feathers. They do look black, although they have bright yellow beaks in summer, and which are sexually dimorphic. So the males will have a blue eye ring and the females will have a pink eye ring if you can get close enough to see them. They can be covered with, in the winter, with brilliant white spots. The Cedar Waxwings are a medium-sized, very sleek-looking bird. They've got a large head, short neck, and a crest that you can see comes off the top, lying flat on the head. Very interesting and very beautiful coloration pattern. So rufous towards the upper part of the bird with a very unique black mask eyeline from the chin and the bib. The rufous across the backside of the surface leads to a dark gray slate color with some red and yellow beautiful pigmentation on the wings and on the tail respectively. The ventral surfaces are tan or buffy colored, leading towards white in the middle in a typical V-like pattern, all of which you can see present on the images provided. Very beautiful and easy to see birds. There are many species of warblers, of which we will not by any means do this group justice. However, we've chosen a few of these species to give you a flavor for the identification of this group. The common yellow-throat warbler has a very stark sexual dimorphic contrast. The males are bright yellow below, with a black sharp face mask and olive underparts. The females are a very plain olive color. You can see there with some slight yellow coloration on the chin and on the ventral surface. This is a common yellow throat. The magnolia warbler, again, also a very sexually dimorphic species. The male is yellow with a ventral surface, but also with some very typical black banding down, and black necklace and banding down the ventral belly. A very unique wing bar also on this bird, with a large white patch on the wings. Very unique cap, so the cap is almost gray with a black mask for the male. The female is much duller colored, although there is significantly more yellow on her ventral surface than, say, on the common yellow-throat warbler. Gray on the upper surface with wing bars present as well. The yellow warbler gets its name because it's yellow, small, evenly proportioned, medium-length tail, and relatively straight bill. They are essentially bright yellow for the males, with a egg yolk color. The females are slightly duller, but they are still have that yellow pigmentation to them. The face is unmarked, which differentiates themselves from the previous two warblers that we've seen, accentuating a very large black eye that you can see present in the bird. The black and white warbler is aptly named given the coloration on its feathers. It's striped all the way down the body, males and females, although the males, as you can see, has much more pronounced and contrasting colors than the females, which is slightly darker. But all the cheeks, the crest and the back of the male are highly patterned. The female is only striped on the crown and the upper parts, and certainly more muted than the male. The ovenbird is a chunky, larger than average warbler, so it's larger than the ones we've seen so far. It's got a fairly round head and thick bill. It's olive green above and has lots of spots below. Sometimes it is confused with a wood thrush, although size and body shape are different between the two species, so we encourage you to make sure that you can identify them properly. A white eye ring again gives a somewhat surprised impression to the species, and also notice the two streaks or the two bands that go from the tip or the entrance of the beak to the head all the way down to the head. The American redstart is a sexually dimorphic bird. The male is black on top with key orangey red markings on the belly, wings, and tail. The female is grayer in color with also some yellow markings, certainly not orange, and that color. They have black legs and faint broken white eye-ring. One of our more brilliant birds is the Scarlet Tanager. The male is a brilliant scarlet color, hence the name, with black wings and a black tail and a relatively large beak and eye. The females are also colored, but they are not brilliant red. They are sort of more dull gold yellow and with a brown wing on top. One of the more challenging groups to identify are the sparrows, of which there are many, many species. We're not going to do this group justice either. However, we have chosen several which have very unique identifiers which will help you to differentiate between the species. The American tree sparrow is a very small, round-headed bird. They often fluff out their feathers to look fluffy and chubbier. They've got a rusty cap, which you can see present on the bird here, as well as an eyebrow line which is streaked with gray and then followed by red. The chin also is gray with a dark smudge in the center of a very unstreaked breast. So again, they can have a two-toned or sometimes bicolored bill, so it's brown on the top and then yellow on the bottom. The field sparrow also has a reddish cap, but certainly doesn't have the same patterning present that the American tree sparrow did. It's certainly not as robust and differentiated in color. It has a dully marked back and forelimbs. You can see the striations present here. You can see that it's got a gray face with a white eye-ring present and a small pink bill, which will differentiate it from the American tree sparrow. A song sparrow is a medium-sized and fairly bulky sparrow. It's streaked with brown and thick streaks of white on the chest and the flanks. You can see it present there. The head is a mix of warm red-brown and slate gray, although there are several shades around there as well. The white-throated sparrow, of course, gets its name from its characteristic white throat. It's a very large, full-bodied sparrow as well, with prominent long legs and a rounded head. It's brown above and gray below, with a very striking head pattern. So the chin, of course, or the throat is white, and then, of course, there are black and white stripes present on the head, but also some very unique and brilliant yellow coloring present just before the eye. A dark-eyed junco is a usual resident near bird feeders in some places. It's a medium-sized sparrow. It's got a very short, stout bill and a long, conspicuous tail. Relatively dark all the way across their body, but leading to a white underbelly about halfway down the chest. A chipping sparrow is an extremely small sparrow. It's also got a rusty crown, which could confuse it with the American tree sparrow in some ways. This has a white supercilium and a black eyeline, which you can see present very nicely in this image. Gray face and gray underparts. It's got a gray rump with a very slim forked tail, and both sexes look very similar. As I mentioned, the American tree sparrow and the chipping sparrow do look quite similar in terms of their rufous head and their striations and their patterning and their overall color. So to differentiate between the two of them, it's handy to look at images like this. So the American tree sparrow, one of the things that should stick out is that it has a bicolored bill. The upper part is black, the under part is yellow. Also, it's got a rusty crown, but it also has a gray band followed by a red band that goes right across the eye with a white eye ring. That's different than the chipping sparrow. The chipping sparrow also has a rusty crown, but if you notice it goes a white band, then a dark band through the eye, not a rufous band through the eye. Also, the patterning on the chin or the throat of the chipping sparrow is much whiter and lighter in color than it is for the American tree sparrow. So there are some differences. They are more challenging to pick apart, but again, the beak, one of the beak ones, are key for identification. Last but not least in the sparrow group is our swamp sparrow. It's a small song sparrow as well. It's got an unstriped gray chest, reddish cap during breeding, reddish style wings with a whitish throat and belly, and gray face and the sides of the neck. Also notice that it's got, again, a black streak right through the eye down towards the back of the head. The northern cardinal is certainly one of the most identified or easily recognizable birds that we have. The males and females are sexually dimorphic, so the males are brilliant bright red in plumage. The females also have red plumage as well, including a red beak, as you can see. But of course, the rest of their body is more dull and brown in color. These are large seed-cracking birds, so they have a very stout, thick bill. The males, and to a lesser extent the females, have a black mask around the bill towards the eye. Both of them have a crest which stick up from the base of the head. The rose-breasted grosbeak is similar. They've got a very large triangular bill, broad-chested. The females and males are sexually dimorphic. The males are black on top with wing bars as well, with a brilliant red chevron extending from basically the throat all the way down towards the center of the chest. The females are significantly less showy. They are brown and black and white streaked on the face with brown on the back and then speckling of brown on the belly. The eastern meadowlark is a relatively large songbird. It's got a short tail and long spear-shaped bills. They've got rounded wings and short tails. They've got interesting colorations. They're pale brown marked with a black patterning on the upper parts. Their yellow underparts have a bold black V right across the chest, which you can see present in both of these images. Although most of the tail is brown, the outer feathers are white and very conspicuous during flight. So again, they are one of those unique birds as well. Notice the head too is striped with a black cap with a yellow streak above the eye and then a black streak almost from the middle of the beak right through the eye. The red-winged blackbird certainly has no trouble making himself or herself heard and seen. They're stocky, broad-shouldered blackbird, and of course they get their name from the red, but also yellow, coloration of feathers on the shoulders of the wings. The females are significantly less showy, and in a lot of cases can be confused with a rose-breasted grosbeak, where they share very similar patterning, although more speckled on the ventral surface and more striated and striped. The brown-headed cowbird is a brood parasite, essentially laying its eggs, of course, in nests which are not theirs. They are a smallish blackbird, shorter tails and a very thick head. The males have a brown head, hence the name, with a very jet black body. The females are brown all over, you can see, and have very little patterning, but some fine streaking along the plumage. The common grackle is another relatively common bird in urban or rural settings. They're large, lanky blackbirds, long legs and also long tails, with a very flat head and a bill that, of course, is longer than in most blackbirds. The males are slightly larger than females, but the coloration is very similar. They appear black from a distance, but up close they actually have very glossy, iridescent bodies. So again, their plumage can be quite attractive and shiny. A Baltimore oriole is a little bit smaller and more slender than American robin, but they're medium-sized, very sturdy songbirds. They are sexually dimorphic as well, the male being black from the bib or the throat all the way over the head and down the back with a brilliant orange belly. The females don't have the blackening on the upper surface, but are a pale, dull orange throughout. The American goldfinch is one of our year-round residents in most places in Ontario, though not all. The male in the breeding season is brilliant yellow, contrasting with a black cap and black and white wings. The male in non-breeding, as you can see, has lost the cap and lost significant yellow plumage. The female is also dull and very brown and drab in color, although does preserve some of the more brown color wings as opposed to black. The house finch is another common visitor at some feeders. They're small-bodied, relatively large beaks and flat heads. The wings are short and they are sexually dimorphic. So the males contain some rosy around the face and of course the upper breast with streaky brown back, belly, and tail. The female, though, are not red at all. They are plain and grayish-brown with thick blurry streaks and an indistinctly marked face. The purple finch is a small forested bird. They've got a very powerful beak. Their tails are quite short. The male species are sexually dimorphic, the males being delicate red-pink on the head and breast, mixing with brown on the back and cloudy white on the belly. The females are not red at all, similar to the house finch as well, but they are coarsely streaked with strong facial markings and a white eye strip down the side of the throat. The house finch and the purple finch are usually confused with one another, and that's because they bear very similar coloration and similar body shapes. Um, when you look at them side by side, though, there are some differences. The housefinch, for example, has a very rounded head and a smooth crown. The purple finch actually doesn't. It has a large head and has a peaked crown in some cases. Plumper body for the purple finch, shorter, stubbier bill for sure, with some curved for the house finch as opposed to the purple finch. The purple finch has a much longer, straighter bill. The color also varies from the house finch to the purple finch. So the house finch is generally more colored than the purple finch will be. The females as well, the male purple finches are very strongly colored, and the female house finches are not. So there are some differences as well present within the species. So again, looking at them side by side is a good way to compare and contrast the identifiers. And last but not least, our Old World Sparrow, which is our house sparrow, which is likely one of the most ubiquitous species across the planet, found in airports everywhere around the world. They are not related to any North American sparrow, being fully invasive from the Old World. They are sexually dimorphic. The females are very dusky, very plain, in some cases confused with other species of sparrow and finch. The males, though, are fairly recognizable. They have a reddish, sort of brown color on their back and on their wings. They've got a bib and a throat which is black going down their chest and then up towards their eyes and surrounding their beak. So the males are fairly distinctive. The females are more challenging to identify.